Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, T&I committee, our panelists. We're glad to have you here. I'm going to talk about some of my biggest fears, our top three. The first is clowns. There's nothing that we can do about that today. But the second, number two, is turbulence. Turbulence on an airplane, and it can be very unnerving. I think we've all experienced that. There's stories of some very harsh turbulence that has caused injuries. Mr. Santa, is there anything we can do? Is there anything that you can direct a plane to fly in a different direction or higher or lower to avoid turbulence? Is that something we can do?
Thank you for the question. It is, first of all, when we talk about turbulence, we take it very seriously, even though we're sitting in the seat controlling the traffic. But it is very taxing to the workforce. The reports and the interrogations of the pilots to find the smoothest rides and then present those to subsequent air flights through there, it's important to us. We know the challenges, and we've seen some of the occurrences recently, and that really brings right back to the question. The more work you have with combined sectors, and the more work you have without the extra eyes and the redundancies and the people sitting next to you to take your reports and to pass them on to the next aircraft, it hurts us when we don't have the bodies to do that.
Very good. No, thank you very much. Number two on the list is getting trapped on a plane on a runway that's just parked there. I know it's gotten so much better, but Ms. Pinkerton, does that still happen? Is that still a thing where planes can sit? What are the limitations of sitting on a plane that's not ready to go, but not? They don't want to bring them back to the terminal to let them disembark. Does that still happen?
Congress did pass the rule to prevent long tarmac delays. So anything, if a plane is on the tarmac for an excess of 3 hours for domestic, 4 hours for international, there are violations. That's a violation, and penalties.
Is that too long though? Even that doesn't 3 hours sound like
it rarely happens. Remember,
when it does,
45,000 flights a day, 2.5 billion people. It rarely happens, but one time happening is too much. I completely agree with you. Interestingly, talking back to this control and not control issue, I fly every week like you do, and I was on a flight last week. We got onto the tarmac, and in Florida, they created a metering program for us taking off. It was a Central Florida issue. And so all of a sudden, we were on the tarmac, or on the runway, because of a Central Florida ground delay program, essentially. So not our fault necessarily, but what do we want the pilot to do? Do we want him to stay there and take off, or do we want him to go back to, interestingly, at about 2.5 hours the way through, just to show you how complicated this is, the pilot says, I'm going back. Do you know why we went back at 2.5 hours, even though I would have rather stayed for another 30 minutes? Because we waited 2.5 hours? Because the pilot's timed out. And so those
hold
types
on a second. We've got challenges, and I want to get my last question in before we go. And lots of things. You've given lots of full testimony to read, so thank you. But I want to get to everybody, and we're entering the lightning round, where I've got 1 minute and 20 seconds left. So under 10 seconds each. What's the one thing, and I'm going last, so you've already answered a lot of questions, but what's one thing that this committee needs to know about air travel that possibly we could change? Mr. Page, one thing. Bigger seats.
One thing, better access for people with disabilities.
10-4. And thank you for your coming in and letting us know that. Rich Santa, what say you?
It is safe, but we can do better with efficiencies. And the passenger experience is getting people to make their connections and to start their vacations on time. And we can do that with better staffing and better technology.
Very good. The near misses, just with staffing, we'll correct those. Is it just me, or is it the press saying there's more near misses than there have been before? Should we be worried about I'm worried about the near misses. That is on my list as well. But what say you to the near misses?
We are all worried and concerned about the recent events, and we evaluate those, and we put precautions, and we fix those challenges on a day-to-day basis. Huge, robust safety team.
10-4. Thank you. Mr. Kevin. What do we need to know?
More support to help airports meet their very critical infrastructure needs.
Very good. And Ms. Sharon, last for you.
The system is safe. There are incidents. We are addressing those incidents, but aviation is safer than any other mode of transportation. But what we need to do is we need to solve our people problem, and we need to do better implementing technology.
Thank you very much. I yielded my time. Thank